Some more now on what 2016 could mean for this part of the world, because we can speak to Ellie Geranmayeh, who's from the Middle East and North Africa programme at the European Council on Foreign Relations. Ellie, thanks for coming in. And we wanted to talk to you about the big picture of 2016. It sort of feels like it's been hijacked immediately by the Saudi-Iranian issue, which is how worrying?
Well, I think you're right to say 2016 is off to a terrible start for the region, the Saudi and Iran relations in particular. And I think it's the analysis now that there was an intentional injection of a new layer of chaos into quite a fragile region. And that this layer of chaos...
Provided by whom? Are you suggesting by King Salman?
Well, the execution was no doubt always going to have a predictable outcome, that it was going to polarize the sectarian divide even further in the region, in a region that's already fragmented across those lines, and it was going to limit the space available for diplomacy tracks, whether it's on Yemen or Syria. And I think that's the most worrying thing, particularly for the West, is how they're going to caution both sides to contain this tension to a bilateral issue rather than allowing it to contagion the rest of the region as well.
I mean, there's been that contagion to a certain extent. You can see the allies falling in line, which I guess will make it harder to achieve anything. Of those issues, you talked about Yemen, you talked about Syria. Perhaps we can take them both on. What does this mean, do you think, for Yemen?
Well, I think the calculated move on the part of the House of Saud was to essentially distract the conversation regarding the perhaps less than successful military campaign in Yemen, both domestically and on the foreign policy platform, to now focus on this new chaos. And the process on Yemen itself is not going as well as hoped. And I think this is going to complicate the factors even more. It's going to induce Iran to ally itself more closely with the Houthi opposition in Yemen, and also for the Saudis to double down on their efforts there also. In
a way, that seems like a sort of a clearer picture than the possible impact on Syria of this fallout. But if you had a situation where Iran and Saudi Arabia were sitting around the same table, along with many other nations, part of an international effort to break Syria, if you like, does this impact very much on the bigger picture of trying to deal with the Syrian conflict, if these two can't do that anymore?
Well, I think it's unlikely, although it's still a possibility, that either side may actually walk away from the next round of the Syria talks. But if they will do so, it's going to be seen as a pretext. This whole chaos will be seen as a pretext, as an excuse of something they were always going to do. So it's neither of their interests to walk away. But what's more of a possibility is actually they scuttle and slow down the negotiations by sticking to maximalist positions that they've maintained so far in these talks. And that's going to slow down both the UN track and the multilateral track being led by Russia and the US.
You know, I've been struggling to think of an area where I could say, give me some good news for 2016. Have you got any?
Well, I think when it comes to Iran in particular, looking forward to the implementation date of this nuclear deal, this historic deal that was made last year, it's finally looking like it will be implemented. Mind you, there might be some hurdles still along the road, but it looks like the first quarter of this year, even as early as the end of this month, maybe when the date of implementation is made. That means Iran will have fulfilled its nuclear obligations, and hopefully the West can start easing sanctions on Iran, which will improve trade and improve the prospects of people-to-people diplomacy between Iran and the West.
Well, we'll take that encouraging note at least. Ellie Geranmayeh, thanks very much indeed.
Thank you.